Tonight on CFTK-TV News, BC's total wildfire situation is getting more out of control. The museum town of Barkerville had to be evacuated recently, and the presidential race in the U.S. has changed a fair bit.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cal Baslett, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. Word has come out from the district of Fort St. James that there is some new news regarding the Pick Creek wildfire that is located not too far from the area that is home to both the Stewart Lake and River. The word is that the northern part of the fire has a containment perimeter that had almost finished being built and should be completed before too long. Night firefighting crews have managed to keep their suppression efforts going continuously and have also been able to keep the fire within the created containment lines. But still, the evacuation alert that was put into place for the surrounding area due to the fire is still in place, although the fire has also not gotten any bigger thanks to containment work from firefighters. Now to the volatile wildfire situation that's growing more serious by the hour. Thousands of overnight lightning strikes sparked dozens of new fires recently, and it comes as several communities are facing evacuations, destruction, and road closures. CTV's Penny Daflos has this wildfire coverage.
It's a rare and chilling sight, but Williams Lake residents saw the Herculean efforts above their homes to save them from flames.
It's hard to explain, my friend, what was going through my mind.
Strong wind brought a tree down on a power line Sunday, sparking a fierce fire on the edge of the city, a stone's throw from homes.
Devastating is the only word I can think about when I see that. In 50 years, my residence in this community, I've never seen any fire that aggressive.
Remarkably, no one was hurt, and while there have been more flare-ups,
boys are on it again.
Aerial firefighter crews have been hitting them hard, and the River Valley wildfire stands at 40 hectares. It's a very different story due south in the Fraser Canyon, where the Shetland Creek wildfire grew by a third to 20,000 hectares and has shut down a 50-kilometer stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway with flames almost licking the roadside.
Worst case scenario, town has to be evacuated and we go into a full firefight.
The town of Ashcroft has evacuated a few more residents, with most of the community now on alert.
It's been very stressful. This is our third major fire since 2017.
It's tough. It's like an emotional roller coaster.
Those already forced from their homes are finding strength in community while very aware of the tinder dry conditions.
As we left, looking behind, it was just flames everywhere.
We could safely say that, we're entering into the core of wildfire season.
More than 330 fires are now burning across British Columbia, straining resources. 1,000 firefighters are on the ground with 170 aircraft flying air support. Widespread lightning storms in the forecast are further complicating the firefight.
Things like tree stability, fire behavior, as well as maybe downpours that could be affecting some of those remote roads that we use.
All eyes are on the sky.
Please pray for us
to see what Mother Nature will throw at us next.
And the historic gold rush town of Barkerville has been evacuated as the nearby Antler Creek wildfire is rapidly growing. CTV's Mark McMahon has more on efforts to protect the beloved living museum.
The Antler Creek wildfire has grown to 3,400 hectares and is now 3 kilometers southeast of Barkerville. And BC wildfire crews are doing everything they can to make sure the historic site is protected.
Barkerville is an incredibly important site, both for the province of British Columbia and the history, as well as the locals. A lot of people grew up around here, and this site has a lot of value to them.
Efforts include setting up sprinklers, which are dousing the ground around the gold rush town, even as the smoke drifts through.
We're working with our structure protection specialists, local structure protection specialists, and the staff here with Barkerville.
And the Premier is also watching the situation closely.
Things are incredibly dry out there. Lightning strikes have started hundreds of fires. It's threatening amazing historic resources like Barkerville. It's threatening communities like Fort Nelson and others.
The wildfire service is also using aircraft, but the smoky conditions are at times preventing their involvement. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
The River Forecast Center has recently made the choice to issue a flood watch spanning northern BC, saying that moderate to heavy rain is expected with thunderstorms stretching into tomorrow. The center says water levels have been relatively low, but modeling suggests that they will rise significantly in response to the rain, with some tributaries reaching the 5 to 10 year return period for peak flows by the middle of the week. The BC Wildfire Service has said the weather could hamper fire crews' ability to properly respond to fires, with winds affecting the stability of trees and downpours potentially affecting aerial efforts as well as the dirt roads that are used by the firefighters. BC's Driver Information Service says the Alaska Highway is closed due to flooding located about 170 kilometers north of Fort Nelson. Coming up next is what to do if you see a bear going through your garbage. Welcome back. You may have seen them walking about or going through your garbage. Calls for bear sightings are up, and while the vast majority of encounters are harmless, last week a bear had to be destroyed after attacking a woman in North Vancouver. CTV's Kevin Chirac has more on what the bears are looking for and tips to stay bear smart.
And then he looked up at my grandma, looked down, and then looked up at my grandma again.
Connor Perzo with the bear sighting breakdown. His family's security camera catching the curious cub in action.
There's been bear sightings every day, at least within the last 10 days in this neighborhood.
He's over here. Several neighbors telling CTV News they've had their garbage bins ripped open. In one case, a bear's presence in a driveway made a delivery driver refuse to get out of his truck.
This is bear country.
Christine Miller with the North Shore Black Bear Society says calls for sightings are up, but it's typical this time of year.
Gosh, their nose is terrific. It can pick up garbage and organics from far away.
Holy sh! She says they're looking for food and people need to take extra precaution.
Odorous things like fish and meat scraps in particular. We encourage people to freeze until the morning of collection.
Bear attacks don't happen often, but just last week at a home here in Deep Cove, a woman was bitten while gardening and the bear had to be put down.
People in the area were very frightened for their children, and he had approached somebody else the night before. The North Shore Black Bear Society understood the action that the Conservation Officer Service took.
She says she doesn't expect bear or other wildlife sightings to slow down anytime soon, so people need to be alert, keep dogs on leashes, and if you encounter a bear,
you need to tell him that you're not a threat, so you just talk to him calmly. He doesn't want to get close to you either.
He's back. Don't feed the bears, never run, walk away slowly, and try and stay calm. Kevin Chirac, CTV News, North Vancouver.
With it being the middle of summer at the moment, it's the time of year when most people break out the grill and barbecue some meals. But the biggest risk with meals like that might not be even the potential to accidentally burn oneself. It's the possibility of catching a certain disease if you don't cook your meat properly.
The weather's great. I think people are gathering. They're getting together, they're having barbecues, they're having parties.
Barbecue season is here.
Make sure that you're following the safe food handling practices so that everyone is healthy, everyone is good.
A request from the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit after 16 cases of salmonella were recorded in June. The average number of cases over the past 5 years is 3.2 per month. The cause of last month's spike in the foodborne illness.
That's something we're trying to figure out. I think it could be a combination of people preparing foods at home, people who are new to preparing foods.
Scott Martin is a public health inspector. He says it's essential to have a clean prep area.
The optimal thing would be using separate cutting boards and utensils. If it's color coordinated, that's even better. You've got potentially raw as being red and green or another color as being ready to eat foods or produce. Making sure that you're cooking things to the proper internal temperature, and the best way to do that is through the use of a probe thermometer and confirming that it's actually been cooked to 74 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds.
Also, be cautious of eating raw or undercooked meat, poultry, eggs, or egg products. Make sure fruits and vegetables have been properly washed and not exposed to contaminated water. Avoid contact with certain animals such as reptiles, birds, and baby chicks. Ensure your hands are washed properly and avoid drinking tainted water. Martin says failure to follow these guidelines will put you and your family at risk.
Diarrhea, headache, vomiting, nausea, stomach ache, Obviously, the people who are more at risk would be elderly folks or young children, people who are immune compromised.
So consider these safety guidelines next time you are barbecuing on the grill.
Just want to make sure that everyone is safe.
Now for a look at a study that provides insight into questions regarding the feasibility of a universal basic income, as the head of the study ponders how employment could change in the coming years. ABC's Andrew Dimbert now with the story.
New insight into whether a universal basic income could one day be sustainable. It's from a study conducted by Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, who has warned about major job losses across certain industries as artificial intelligence grows more powerful.
The speed of the change that may happen here is the part that I worry about the most.
Altman's study gave 1,000 low-income people $1,000 per month over a 3-year period. It was free money, no strings attached. It's something former presidential candidate Andrew Yang supported during the 2020 campaign.
This would create millions of jobs, make our children and families stronger, and give all Americans a better chance to transition in the economy of the 21st century.
Altman's study found people mostly spent the extra money on basics, such as food, rent, and transportation. The largest increase in their spending was to help family and friends with their bills. Many people also put money in the bank. On average, with the extra money, they worked about 1 hour less per week. The research was conducted amid concerns that artificial intelligence will eventually make millions of jobs obsolete, leaving many people scrambling to find new ways to make a living.
With every great technological revolution in human history, although it has been true that the jobs change a lot, some jobs even go away. And I'm sure we'll see a lot of that here.
Critics dismiss the idea of a universal basic income as un-American, comparing it to socialism, saying it would lead to dependency and suffocate innovation in the economy. But tech industry titans, including Elon Musk, Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey, and the so-called godfather of artificial intelligence, Geoffrey Hinton, support it. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is set to get a chance of showers plus a low at 12 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area should deal with showers as well and a low at 10 degrees, and the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will likely see a chance of showers in addition to a low at 7 degrees. On the north coast, the week for them will contain mixed sunny days to start but rainy and cloudy ones after that, as well as a high that moves from 17 to 15 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their upcoming week will move from rain to sun to mixed sun and rain and even more rain after that, and a high that bounces from 20 to 25 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, their next week or so will begin and end with rain, but will pretty much have all sun in between and a high shifting between 16 and 24 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is limited visibility, a travel advisory, utility work, bridge maintenance, construction work, and electrical maintenance. Highway 118 has some bridge construction and paving operations. Highway 37 has some paving operations, roadside brushing, and bridge maintenance. And Highway 37A also has bridge maintenance. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the View of the Province's highway cams. Still to come is reaction from Canada about Joe Biden's presidential withdrawal. Welcome back. The race for the White House is on a different course now that Joe Biden has dropped out. He's endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris, who is already receiving support from Democrats and attacks from Republicans. CTV's Joy Balbon has the latest from Washington.
Surrounded by student athletes, college champions, Kamala Harris is running her own race, quickly becoming the one to beat for the Democratic nomination, praising President Joe Biden.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, He has already, yes, you may clap.
Recovering from COVID, Biden dropped his troubled re-election bid under pressure from his party, concerns over his age and ability to defeat Donald Trump. Biden endorsed Harris as his successor. A flood of support coming from top Democratic leaders like former Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
She is well equipped to prosecute, I'm going to emphasize, to prosecute the case against Donald Trump.
I haven't seen this kind of excitement in the Democratic Party in quite a long time.
We win! Even potential running mates or possible rivals like Governors Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer, and Kentucky's Andy Beshear all lining up to back her.
The vice president is smart and strong, which will make her a good president.
Harris inherits Joe Biden's war chest, raising tens of millions, a surge in donations in just a single day. She even has a new logo, Harris for President. The race for the White House no longer a rematch between two old men. Donald Trump at 78 complaining on Truth Social. Now we have to start all over again. Scrambling to change course, the Trump campaign out with a wave of new attack ads blaming Harris for covering up Biden's decline.
Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it. Look what she got done, a border invasion.
This is a whole new presidential campaign after weeks of political infighting. Harris is in a strong position to make history and secure the nomination, with just over 100 days to go before the election. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
And reaction ported after Biden withdrew from the re-election race. It's a decision that will inevitably impact Canadians too. CTV's Rob Buffum has that part of the story.
President Biden's decision not to seek re-election reverberated around the globe, including here in BC.
This was a hot topic around the Premier's table, and certainly it's front of mind for British Columbians and Canadians right now.
Premier Eby noting the significance of Canada and BC's relationship with their southern neighbors, a relationship that influences much more than just economics.
It's cultural, it's tourism, it's interpersonal ties. Hope is that regardless of what happens with the administrations in the United States, that we're able to deepen those relationships.
For Americans living in BC, including the head of the Victoria and the Islands chapter of Democrats Abroad, the sudden shift in dynamics after weeks of focus on Biden's mental acuity and age, a welcome change.
So many people who are excited about Kamala Harris. She has actually energized the whole party.
Regardless of who becomes the next president, Trump or the Democrat nominee, likely Harris, this is just the latest chapter in a wild campaign.
For Canada, this creates even more uncertainty. Everyone was looking at a Biden-Trump contest.
And whoever wins that contest, BC and Canada will likely face trade restrictions on goods, including lumber and dairy. But some experts say less volatility with Harris, who went to high school in Montreal, than with Trump.
She lived in Canada for 3 years as a teenager, and I think, although she's from California, just be a much more predictable relationship, government to government.
In this remarkably unpredictable election year, we'll have to wait until November 5th to see who the next leader of our closest ally is, but we now know it won't be Joe Biden. Robert Buff from CTV News, Victoria.
Theft has generally been a bit of a problem as of late for stores throughout most of Canada, it would seem, but now the concern is shifting towards a different aspect of the robberies at public stores, namely how willing thieves seem to be when it comes to taking things in broad daylight. CTV's Pat Foran has more on the subject.
Shoplifting has always been a problem for retailers, but now there is a growing concern over how brazen the stealing has become. Theft happens on a daily basis at many stores, and more retailers want to prosecute those responsible.
It is unfortunately getting worse, and stores are implementing various measures.
Sam Rad, a business consultant and former president of the Paralegal Society of Canada, says there are programs that could help a first-time offender avoid prosecution in some circumstances. But for those convicted of shoplifting, they will end up with a criminal record, which will change their life.
Then you would have to go through the process of getting pardoned from the National Parole Board. With a criminal record, you would be inadmissible to go to the United States. You could potentially hinder yourself in getting employment.
Theft is also a major problem at the LCBO. A spokesperson told CTV News it does not share theft details, but Peel Regional Police say last year in just Mississauga and Brampton, there were more than 3,500 cases of shoplifting at LCBO stores.
Theft for sure is on everybody's mind, so general shoplifting.
The Retail Council of Canada says escalating violence and weapons being used during thefts is also concerning for businesses, as well as organized crime and group theft.
Where you have multiple people, 3, 4, 5, going into a retail environment and stealing in bulk, shopping carts full, bagfuls of merchandise.
Stores are faced with increasing security while at the same time trying to make sure shoppers have a positive retail experience. Rad says to anyone considering shoplifting, don't do it.
Don't take the risk. It is not worth it. And the spending money on the legal fees and going through the criminal justice system and the public embarrassment and embarrassments amongst family, it is not worth it.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 7/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is up $12.60. Oil is down $1.44. Natural gas is down 6 cents. Aluminum is down $52. In Toronto, the TSX is down 58.90 points. The Venture Index is up 1.39. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 57.35, and Nasdaq is down 10.22. Still ahead is a type of wild animal sighting that most probably won't ever experience themselves. Welcome back. Next up is a tale of a lady who was camping and noticed a creature that isn't seen super often in the Canadian wild, at least. CTV's Tyler Barrow has more of the details.
Well, out in Peter Lougheed Provincial Park, southwest of Calgary, Nikki Skog spotted this adorably ugly creature.
I've never seen a wild turkey on the side of the road in the mountains, like ever.
Skog saw the female turkey on the side of the road last Thursday. 2 days later, the turkey turned up at her campsite in Interlakes Campground.
Kind of came over and got really close, like right beside my chair. Like I could have reached out and touched him.
Wild turkeys are known to wander in the summer, especially hens looking for places to nest. However, they typically stick to the foothills in the southwest.
That far up Kananaskis Valley is she's wandered a long ways away from her typical, home.
According to Jokin, while turkeys do fly, that's not how they travel. Instead, covering ground just by walking.
If I had to guess, she came from one of the resident populations in west of Longview or Turner Valley. It is about a 50-kilometer straight line distance.
Alberta Parks says it is aware of the recent wild turkey sightings in Kananaskis and staff are monitoring the situation. Tyler Barrow, CTV News, Calgary.
That's all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thank you for watching. We will see you next time.